Three. So is the screen visible for you guys? Just type yes, please. Just type yes. That the screen is visible. Hello, am I audible? Cool. Cool. So today we're gonna learn about DBScan. So DBScan has a really big full form, which I guess no one remembers from the first time. So DBScan stands for Density Based Spatial Clustering Algorithm or something like that. When I forgot, when I constantly forget what the exact form of DBScan. Let me see. Okay, it's density based spatial clustering of application with noise. So if you can remember this much of a big name, then it's fine. I'll just put it into the chat. Remember this. Okay, so we're gonna learn about DBScan. So till now, whatever algorithm that you have came across of clustering, they all seem to favor the spherical shaped clusters. Like in K-means, they literally draw circular clusters. In hierarchical, we find the similarity between the cluster, like similarity between two clusters, like which one of the closest one, which one is the next closest one. That. So these two algorithms are really good if we have a spherical clusters or separate clusters, just like this one, the first example, in which we have separate clusters. But what if the shape of clusters that we have is completely arbitrary? Like this is our first cluster. Inside our first cluster, there is a second cluster, and there's some third cluster outside that. So if you'll try to apply k-means in this particular algorithm, in this particular example, it will give you a really bad results because it will try to make like circular clusters, and there's no any option that these two clusters can be separated from each other using k-means. So for that, we came across an algorithm which is known as density based density based spatial clustering of data application with noise. Yeah, so let's call this a DB scan. So we came across the algorithm which is known as DB scan. So what exactly DB scan does? So DB scan goes for the places where you have high density and make a cluster out of it. It doesn't go for the circular densities. Now, how exactly it's different from the k-means, or why we need DB scan? So if you'll remember, like if you just think, you have a data and it has outliers, because all the data has outliers. So if you have outliers, like you can see these two are exactly same. If I'll try to apply k-means in this particular data, the outliers will also be included in one of the clusters, because the k-means doesn't consider the point outliers. It will consider that point and it will try to put it into at least one of the cluster, even though they do not belong to any of the cluster, but the k-means will try to put them in at least one of them. So if we'll try to use k-means, you can see the clusters are formed, and this particular point, which is an outlier, is forced to be uh, classified in this particular cluster, even though it's an outlier. The same thing happens with these 2 points, which are outliers, but they're forced to be in a cluster. But that's not the case with density, because if there's a density based clustering, they only check the density, how close they are. So if there are outliers, means there's no any point near to that single point, it will consider it as an outlier. So there's one big difference between density based versus any of the other clustering algorithm, which is either k-means or hierarchical. That they k-means or hierarchical do not consider outliers. If there's an outlier, the density the hierarchical clustering or k-means clustering will try to put it into a single cluster, but density based will figure out that particular outlier and leave it open, like it's not gonna affect any option, like any of the clusters. Now how exactly it does? Before that, let's see the DB scan for a class identification. Now just imagine you have an map, and this map is of North America. So all the points that you can see is the number of wind stations that you have. So if you will apply DB scan here, so in DB scan you can see that the clusters that have been made, it made on the basis of the density that you have. Like there's a high density of uh, there's a high density of uh, wind stations here. There's a high density of wind station here. There's a high density of wind station here. There are small wind stations scattered all across the world, so all across America, but still they are not specified into a cluster, because density based only goes for the high density places. If they're like very far to each other, they're not specified as a cluster. As you can see, these points are very far from each other, so they are not specified as a cluster. So that happens with DB scan. Now we'll see what exactly is DB scan. So before DB scan, we should, like, how exactly DB scan work, we should remember some of the stuffs. First is the radius of neighborhood. What exactly is the radius of neighborhood? The radius of neighborhood is the radius that if includes enough number of points within the cluster, we call it a dense area. It means radius of neighborhood tells till what radius of your own point you should consider as your neighborhood. That if you have you can say that that what I am saying is that it's dense. It means there are number of points which are around you, but how far? How far you can consider that, okay, these 2 points are closer to each other. How far is the distance? We have to specify the exact distance. Then to consider them as that, okay, they are not far, that much far, they are neighbors. So for that we have to specify the radius of neighborhood. Now the other attribute is minimum number of neighbors. The minimum number of neighbors is tells you that, okay, if you have this many numbers of neighbors around you, then only you will be considered as a dense area. That you can say, like, you're surrounded with 5 people, then you say you're surrounded by a dense number of people, like you're densely populated, but only one person is around you. It's not a densely populated area, it's just a sparsely populated area. So you have to specify the minimum number of neighbors. Now we'll come across how exactly we use density based, sorry, how exactly we use minimum number of neighbors and radius of neighbors. But how exactly we do it? Now for this example, imagine R is 2 unit and M is 6. So it means the radius of what is that name? The radius of neighborhood is 2 unit and the minimum number of neighborhood is 6. Now we'll randomly select any of the point and try to apply DB scan algorithm on that. And how to apply the DB scan, we'll see. So let's take one random point. Okay. So the one random point is this red one. So this red point, all the points which are there in the screen will be divided into 3 different points. Either they are a core point, or they are a border point, or they are an outlier. Now how to decide either they are a core or a border or an outlier? We have to decide that using the radius of neighborhood and the minimum number of neighbors. How exactly we do it? Let's see. Let's imagine this point as a consideration. Like for this example, this particular point, we'll decide either they are an outlier or a border point or a core point. So for this, r is equal to 2. So we'll take a distance of r of 2 unit and make a circle around it. So you can see we took the distance of r of 2 unit and make a circle around it. Now we'll count how many number of points came in between this circle, came inside the circle. and if they are on the circle also, they'll be considered inside the body. So you can see if R is 2 and we made a circle, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 points came inside the circle. So we'll not consider, okay, let's consider this as not 5, let's consider it as, okay, so there's a bit mistake here. It should not supposed to be 5, it's not supposed to be 6, it's supposed to be 5. So just imagine that M is 5 for now. So what we're gonna do, R is 2, M is, okay, it's written 6, but it has to be 5. So R is 2, we made a circle and we'll try to find out how many number of neighbors that you have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's equal to the minimum number of neighbors. So we'll call this particular point for which we're checking how many numbers are there, this particular point as a core point. That this particular point is a core point. Okay. Okay. No. Now we'll go for other points. Now let's consider this particular point. We'll do the same thing. We'll make a circle of 2 radius, 2 unit radius, and we'll again count how many number of points you have inside this. Now you have 1, 2, 3, 4. The minimum number of neighbors specified was 5. You have 4. So it's not going to be a core point. Now how to decide either it's going to be a border point or a outlier. Now if your neighborhood has a core point inside it, then you will consider this as a border point. So if you can see, this particular point has a neighborhood point, sorry, it has a core point inside its neighborhood. It means it's a border point. So it will be assigned as a border point. Okay. So we're going to do the same thing for all the points. Now consider this particular point. Made a circle. We'll start counting how many number of neighbors that this particular body has. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What we wanted is 5. It became 6. It's completely fine. So it's a core point because it has more than the sufficient number of neighbors, because the name is minimum number of neighbors. So if the number of neighbors is minimum that much, or if it's exceeding that, then it will consider it as a core point. So it's 6, it's more than 5, so it's a core point. So the same thing we'll do for the other points. We'll assign each and everything. Now let's consider this particular point. We'll make a 2 unit radius circle. Now we'll see that there is no point inside it, not a single point inside it. Okay. Even though it had a single point inside it, it wouldn't have worked on. But the thing that we want is it has to be it has to have one core point, because we have to decide it between 3 points, either core or border or an outlier. So what is the rule of a core? That minimum number of neighbors should be there or more than that. So it will consider it as a core. For a border, less than the minimum number of neighbors, but it should have at least one core point inside its neighborhood. So it will be a border. If both the conditions are not satisfied, then it's going to be an outlier. So I guess you understood how exactly DBSCAN works. So because it doesn't have not even a single single point as its neighborhood, so we'll consider this as an outlier. So this is how exactly DBSCAN find out outliers. So because you provided a range, you provided a neighborhood, and there is no point in that neighborhood, it means it's an outlier. So what will happen? Again, you can see, make the circle, make it the core or a border. Now you can see all the points has been specified as either core or border or outliers. Now what should we do? How to make the clusters? So now what we can see, how to make the clusters. You have to just start joining the core points which are really close to each other. So you can see this particular core point is really close to each other. This one, join this one to this one. Now this is one chain of a core point. So all the core points is going to be in the same cluster. So all the core points and all the border points which corresponds to that particular core will be in a single cluster. As you can see, this core point is closer to this one, so we have a connection. We have a connection for this one. We have a connection for this one. Now this particular border point is a border point because which core point is inside this neighborhood? This one. So this particular border point belongs to this particular core. So even this one belongs to this core. This one belongs to this core, or I guess this one. So we make a cluster here. Now for this one, we have only one core point. It's not really close to any of the other core points. So only this particular core point and their border points will be one cluster. And this particular one is an outlier. Now, because it's an outlier, we're not going to assign any cluster to it. And that's the biggest difference, or the biggest advantage of DBScan, that it can find a noise point or an outlier and just leave it as it is. They'll not try to point out, like do not try to plot a cluster for it or try to fit any cluster for that thing. Now, this is how DBScan exactly works. So there are some advantages for DBScan, which is an arbitrary shaped clusters, as we studied in the first place. It is robust to outliers, that you can find out outliers. It does not require specification of the number of clusters. Now there's a the only advantage with DBScan compared to only with k-means is even this particular algorithm doesn't need a number of clusters at the very start. Just like hierarchical, it doesn't need a proper number of clusters. The model can make number of clusters by themselves. Now you can, so that you can see it. You do not have to specify it. The only thing that you have to specify is the value of r and the value of m, which is the value of the radius and the value of number of neighbors. Now the value of number of neighbors and the value of epsilon is a really hard thing to find out. Like you have to go for hit and trial. There's no any way other than hit and trial. Okay, there are some ways, because like so many researchers have given their own papers on how to exactly find out the value of r and the value of m, and they have the different approaches. I'll forward you all the papers which I can find out. They all are a bit different with each other, but they all try to find out which one can be the best one. It's never specified that this one is the best one. It's completely depending upon what kind of model you have, what kind of data set you have. But they all just gave their own ways to approach the exact answer. After approaching that, you can find out, okay, this one is not the one. So you have to try to fine tune it by just doing some random guesses. So okay, just make the number of radius a bit big, make the number of neighbors a bit bigger than what it is. So I have to try to find out with that. It's not specified like how exactly you have to find out the values. Okay, so this is the advantage of DBScan, and the limitations are how to find out the values for R and M. Now there's one more disadvantage of DBScan is it's not really good in finding the clusters which are sparsely populated. There's a possibility that the cluster that you have is not equally populated, like equally dense. Like there's a cluster, but most of the points are in right side, a bit less in the left side. So DBScan doesn't work very well there. So if your model has a cluster which is partially populated or unevenly populated, so DBScan can go completely wrong in that particular model. So before applying DBScan, make sure that your model has clusters which are densely populated, or you're trying to make a collection or trying to make a classification, not classification, trying to make a clustering on density, not on anything else, then DBScan is a really good algorithm. So this is what all about DBScan. So we'll see the code, and again, DBScan code is the simplest one which you can see. It's really simple, really small. So this time we are not even including the NumPy and pandas. Why? Because we are not why I said that we are going to use NumPy and pandas all the time, because when you get your model to work on, you have to use your complete EDA, like find missing values, feature selection, checking which is good or not, which feature is how the features are related and all. So for that we need NumPy and pandas each and every time. Currently we have the dataset which is completely filled. There's no missing values, there's no feature selection has to be done here. So that's why for this particular example we are not using neither NumPy nor pandas. So we'll import the data set, which is load iris. I guess till now you have completely understood what exactly is load iris and what exact value they give. We make an object of iris. Again, we have the whole data set, which having the data, sepal width, sepal end, petal width, petal length. Simple. The array is here. This is your target, and this is your feature names. Okay. How to apply the DB scan? So again, it's an unclassified, unsupervised learning algorithm, so it doesn't care about the labels. So you do not. The only thing that you have to provide is the data. So from sklearn.cluster, we import the function dbscan. No, we make an object of dbscan, specifying the value of epsilon, the matrix, and the minimum samples. Epsilon is the radius. Hold on. So epsilon is the radius that we specified in the example. That what is the exact radius for which you have to find out the number of neighbors. Minimum samples is the number of neighbors that you have to find out, like surrounding the people, surrounding that particular point, how many number of points which are closer to each other. Now metric stands for what, how you are finding the distance, like you are specifying 0.5, you are specifying like 0.5, like what exactly is 0.5. It has to be a distance. Then which kind of distance? Either it's going to be an Euclidean distance, it can be a Manhattan distance, it can be a Pearson distance, Pearson distance, sine distance, cosine distance. There are so many distances. Most of the time we go for Euclidean distance, and you have more than this stuff also to find out minimum sample, metric parameters, algorithm, size, p. There are so many hyperparameters that you can try upon. So we make an object of dbscan. Now we use dbscan.fit, and we just provide the iris data. So what exactly is the iris data? So if I'll see iris data, what exactly it is, why am I saving it? So iris data, array yaar. So you can see this is the iris data, only the values, no labeling, nothing. No, what's this? So no labeling and nothing. So we just provide the data, and now we need to know the data that you have provided has been classified into what kind of stuffs. Now you can see you have 0, -1, 1. Let's see how many are unique. UNIQUE. Okay, doesn't have any attribute unique. So does this size unique? Okay, even I forgot which one is unique. Should have. Okay, I guess this is for data frame. So let's see, no problem. So what you can see, 0, -1, 1. So what exactly this model did is, the model clustered all this data into two cluster, which is specified as 0 and 1. And wherever you can see -1, it stands for outliers. So all the points which are -1 has been said as outliers. Now, the only reason you cannot directly show this particular answer as a graph is because it's a 4D diagram. You can see there are 4 rows, the 4 features that you have specified in dbscan. So you cannot print a 4D diagram, but there are ways to keep the data information intact but reduce its dimensionality, like reduce it to 3D to 2D, keeping their data intact, which is known as a principal PCA, principal component something is there. I forgot again. I'll again forget the name. PCA, principal PCA. What is the full form of PCA? I forgot. What is it? Principal component. Okay. Sorry. So PCA. PCA stands for the principal component analysis. So it's a really high level topic. Even if you'll like read it for like a month about PCA, then again after a month also you're gonna go and use PCA. It's gonna like irritate your mind because it's really complex. Not even complex, complicated. It has like so many things going on here and there, which is really hard to keep a track on. So I'm just giving you an idea, a brief idea what exactly PCA does. PCA is just gonna take your data, and then it just makes sure that the data that you're providing will have their own relative relationship intact, but it will try to reduce the dimensionality. From a 3D diagram, it will try to bring it to a 2D diagram, or from a 3D diagram, it will try to bring it to a 1D, from 4D to 3D, or whatever dimensionality you want it to be. But it will try to keep the dimensions intact. How exactly they do like complete save the dimensionality is by making some principal components. They'll try to find out of that all 3D diagram. Like imagine you are trying to make a 3D diagram to a 2D diagram. They'll try to find out the relationship between a 3D diagrams, and we'll see which one is the most important one and which one is the least important one. And they'll try to just remove the least important one to make it to a 2D diagram. So what exactly we did here is use the principal component analysis to take this 2D diagram and cluster it into a take this 4D diagram, like 4D data, and construct it into a 2D data. So how exactly we did it? So from Matplotlib, from sklearn decomposition, we imported the PCA. So from PCA, we specified n components, which is the number of dimensionality we want it to be. So from PCA.n components, we made an object, and we just use the fit function here only. PCA.fit the iris data. So we take the iris data, which is here. So this iris data, which is of 4 dimensions, and we fit it into 2 dimensions. Okay. So after the model has been model is ready, now we just have to transform the data from the 4 dimensions to the second 2 dimensions. So PCA of 2D will save the PCA.transform the iris data. So all the data that you have in 4 dimensions will get transformed into the 2 dimensions. Now you can see the data that you have in 4 dimensions for PCA for iris is now converted into a 2D data. Cool. Now we have to display the data. So again, PLT.figure fixed size just to show the size of the canvas. So 0 from range 0 to PCA.2D.shape. So shape gives you what? The number of rows and the number of columns. So how many number of objects we have? It will be the equal of number of rows. That's what we did. For each and every attribute, so for each and every object, we had 4 columns. We reduce it to 2. So the number of what objects is going to be same. So the number of rows is the number of objects. So what we did? So I is equal to range 0 to PC of 2D shape. It means number of rows. So it's going to oscillate between. So it's going to loop between from the first row till the last row. So now what we did, we are getting all the points. So we'll try to find out for which one. I guess we remember about the hierarchical, how we printed the hierarchical one. We started looping, we started iterating through the whole loop, through the whole data, and started finding for which one they have provided 0, for which one they have provided 1, for which one they have provided -1. So the same thing we did, pl.scatter, PC of 2D, I of 0, PC of 2D, I of 1. It means we'll try to find out the instance which is like this, which has 0 values, which has been specified as 0. Okay. No, sorry, yeah. So DBA on scanner's labels as I is equal to 1. So it means we'll try to find out which attributes has been specified as 0, cluster number 0. If it's there, then plt.scatter, we point that number and we make it as a color red and marker of a caret symbol. And the same thing we do it if the label is 1, then again we're gonna use the scatter plot, PCA.2ID0 and PC of 2D of I of 1. It means the zeroth column in the first column, and then plot it using a size of 100 to make it big, color of green, and the marker of O. The same thing again, if the data set, like if the labels are -1, then plot the graph using the size 100, color as blue, and the marker is star. And again, you just give the legend for the graph, C1, C2, C3 as cluster 1, cluster 2, cluster 3. So you can see the graph that we have printed is just a dimensionality reduction of the iris data. Now you can see what exactly the data set we have provided, what DBScan exactly did. So DBScan guessed this particular object as a right object. Can explain PCA component and why we used it. Okay, PCA is a really complex thing to be going up on. I'll try to take a class for PCA in any other day if I'll get some time. And the only reason why we use PCA is because the data was 4-dimensional. We cannot plot a 4-dimensional data. So what we did, we just reduced the dimensionality to, can explain the if condition, the PC loops again. Okay, I'll explain that. So we just reduce the dimensions from the 4-dimension to the 2-dimension so that we can display the data on the loop, like onto the graph. Now the if conditions again. So we'll go to the if conditions again. So what exactly happened is we have our 4D data. We have converted into a 2D data. No, the data are like what? Arrays 0 and 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. Simple. Now what we're gonna do? We're gonna loop. Sorry, we're gonna iterate through the whole of array. Like this one, this one, this one. We're gonna loop iterate through all the uh, elements which are there inside the array, and we'll find out for which one we have 0, for which one we have 1, and for which one we have -1. So what we did, this one is for the looping, so it will loop through all the number of labels, sorry, all the number of items. So we'll find out if the DBA scan of labels of I. So it will check for which one the DBA scan labels of I. It means I is for the range and the iteration only. It's going to be for 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So it will check for which one it's 0. So just imagine for this one, this particular output, the DB scanner labels of I means if I is here, it will check DB scan of label of I is 0 because for all the attributes it's giving some labels now. So just imagine for this one we have the I is 0. So it means the model predicted this particular attribute or this particular item as a cluster 0. So we have to plot this graph, like plot this point into the graph. How exactly we plot this graph now? So plt.scatter, what we exactly have to specify? The x and the y. How exactly we specify the x and the y? So let's see what point it was there. Okay, let's take this point was there. So we have to specify the value of x and the value of y. Okay. So how exactly we point the value of x and the value of y? So you can see this is the I index. This particular is the ith index. This one, the whole of this is the ith index. So we specified PC of 2D I in both the sides. Now inside I, this is the 0th index, this is the first index. As you can remember, if we have a loop, if you have an array inside an array or a list inside a list, what we used to do, we just give the first, we specify the first list, like the outer list, and then the inner list, or the first array or the outer array, then the inner array. So that's the same thing that we are doing. We are first specifying the outer array and then the inner array. So the outer array is this I, because we checked that this particular I has the PCO of 0. We have to display this particular item or this particular object. So PC yaar. So PC of 2D I, it means this one, this object's 0. It means the 0th object, a 0th index of 0th index inside this I. So 0th index inside this I will be the first attribute, only this much. And PCA of I of 1, it means inside this array the first index. So inside this particular whole of I, what is the first index? This one. That's how we specify 0 and 1. So that's how we specify the value of x and y. So that's why it will print the point x, this particular point, into the graph. The same thing we did for all the other examples. For the other example, if we are checking if the value is 1, the label has been 1, it means the cluster has been assigned as cluster 1. So if the cluster, imagine if this has a cluster assigned as cluster 1. So the same thing that we're going to do, PC of I, the outer array, which is I, because we have checked the array as cluster 1. For the outer array, we got the outer array. Now go to the inner one. For the inner one, we have to specify the 0th index and the first index, because the 0th index specify the x-axis or the x coordinate, and the first index will specify the y coordinate. So it's 0th and first. So you'll get the x and the y value. The same thing for -1. I guess you understood the thing. Okay. So this is exactly what we did here. Now we can see the graph. This particular is specified as R, which is the zero cluster 0. Ouch. The green one is specified as cluster 2. Sorry, first cluster, the cluster 2. Now star, you can see the stars which are as noise because it's specified as -1. Any other questions that you're going on? No. So if it's -1, it's represented as star. So all the points which you can see which are really far from each other, they're like really far from each other, they are specified as a noise. But there's one thing that happens in DB scan, and which is one of the problem of DB scan, that imagine you're starting here, you can see that there is a outlier, that the model is telling that this is an outlier, this particular point. If I'll just zoom it, the model is telling that this is an outlier, but you can see that this doesn't look like an outlier to you. It looks like it belongs to this particular it belongs to this particular cluster, but the model is saying that this is an outlier. How exactly this thing happened? Okay, so what happened is, just imagine you started your cluster DB scanning here from here only. From here only, you just started checking what is the number of either this particular point is a outlier or a border point or a core point. Now in the code we specified the minimum sample should be 5. Now just imagine, go to this case, and the radius is 0.5. So just imagine we made a circle of 0.5, and these two um, neighbors came inside this his radius, but none of them are core points because they haven't even been checked yet. This is the first number that we're checking, or the first attribute we're checking, and then what? And the numbers, oh sorry, not the numbers, and the data points or the neighbors that came inside his whole neighborhood is not been specified as a border point or a core point. So there is no chance of it being considered as a border point. So if you are currently starting your DB scan, there's only one condition. Either they will be specify them as a core point, or they'll specify them as an outlier. So if the chances that the first thing that you're trying here, the first data point that you're trying is currently a bit lies a bit outside, just a bit outside or on the border, it cannot specify it as a core, so it will startly classify that as a border only. Sorry, classify it as a outlier only. So this is one of the small disadvantage of DB scan, that sometimes some border points is considered an outlier even though, so that happens. So this is the same thing that happened here also. This particular point has been considered as an outlier even though you can see that this is not an outlier. Okay, these points are outlier, convincing. This particular point is outlier, highly convincing. But this particular is not an outlier, but still it's considered as an outlier. This is one problem of DB scan. So this is everything about DB scan. If you have any doubt, you can ask. Dataset, the values are 192. I don't think we should. Which algorithm are you talking about? Logistic regression? Nah, no need. Or do we? Nah. I don't think we have. I haven't even rounded any number. Because if you'll go for the rounding stuff and all the number will become similar. Like 192 the 23 one will be similar to 192 the 23.789 also. It's gonna be similar to each other. Unless they're telling you to round off, I don't think it's necessary to round off. As both 92 have different labels. Oh, they have different labels. Well, it can misclassify. These are the small steps that you will figure out, that you're finding out, because the algorithm of logistic regression, or in general the algorithm of anything, any machine learning model that you have seen, is not like 100% accurate. You'll find some problems here and there. This is one of them. You'll work more on as you can see, the example I've given for DBScan, it seems really nice, but again, if you're starting with the random points, if it's not a core, it will consider it as an outlier. This thing happens. So the same thing can happen here also in logistic regression. As both the numbers are 92, 192, they have different, sorry, they have different labels, so it can misclassify. And by the way, I still have to check your notebook. I didn't get the time to check your notebook only. I'll check it. I'll just complete all the works and I'll check it. Any other questions? Okay, if no one has any question, just give a thumbs up so that I can consider it's done. Cool. Light gone. Okay, then looks like everyone is fine now. So I'll be concluding this class. I'll upload this particular notebook on the group, and this ends your unsupervised learning section. Next day, we're gonna learn about recommendation system, and from then they will have one or two more classes to just revise what all algorithms that we have came across, and we'll also learn about polynomial regression. So till then, bye.